Of course, with the recent passing of Pope Francis, many of us might be reflecting on life and death and what lies beyond. Joining us is world-renowned physicist Dr. Michio Kaku, offering a scientific perspective on the afterlife. He's the co-founder of the string field theory. He continues Einstein's unfinished quest for a theory of everything. Dr. Kaku, it's always an honor to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Glad to be on the show.
From a physicist and futurist standpoint, is there any scientific basis or theory that supports the existence of an afterlife?
Well, we physicists have looked at the biology of the afterlife, and we don't see any, except, of course, there's always miracles. There's always breakthroughs in genetic engineering. Things that were once thought to be impossible now are every day. And so don't count out the science. That maybe there's an afterlife, not the way people envision it in the movies, but perhaps a form of immortality. In the animal kingdom, there are some animals that are immortal or near immortal. The hydra found in a pond is immortal, will live forever. And so why not other organisms? That's a question that we have not yet answered.
Appreciate that. Dr. Kaku, you've said the existence of God can neither be proven nor disproven. Can you explain why that is to our viewers?
People want definite answers. Is there a God or isn't there a God? But realize that science has limits. Science depends on what is testable, what is reproducible, what is falsifiable. And God is outside the boundaries of that. There's no test that you can make to prove or not prove the existence of God. You can't say there's a lightning bolt that's going to come down from heaven tomorrow, and if that happens, then there is a God. Well, you can't do it that way. There's no test that allows you to tell whether or not there is a God. Sorry about that.
Sure, we'll allow it. You've said in the past that there's much wisdom in Albert Einstein's Spinoza's God. Tell me what that is. What do you mean by that?
Many people asked Einstein whether he believed in God or not, and he said there really are two kinds of God. One is the God of the Bible, the God that can walk on water, the God that can perform miracles, the God that smites the Philistines and wreaks vengeance on your enemies. He didn't believe in that. He believed in the God of Spinoza, that is the God of harmony, the God of order in the universe.
You believe that human consciousness can potentially exist after death. Can you tell me how?
Well, in the movies, of course, we have ghosts and we have demons and we have life after death. However, we're now beginning to understand the architecture of the human brain. For example, in insects, we can now sequence totally all the neurons inside a mosquito. And it's only a matter of time before we begin to understand the wiring of the human brain. And so think about that. It means that perhaps you don't have to die. Perhaps one day we'll sequence all the neurons of the human brain.
The state judge was arrested by the feds.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of audio interference, but let's continue. How likely do you believe that parallel universes actually exist? And how does that play into the afterlife? If you come to an end in one timeline, can you still continue on and exist in another?
Well, believe it or not, we physicists do believe in parallel universes. I work in something called string theory. And in string theory, we have multiple universes. And in fact, Marvel Comics got wind of the fact that we physicists are working with parallel universes. And now we have all the Marvel superheroes living and fighting in parallel universes. The problem, however, is going between them. That is the problem. It would take an enormous amount of energy to go from one universe to the other universe. So do we believe in parallel universes? Yes, that's called quantum mechanics. That is the foundation of modern society, in fact. But can we go between parallel universes? Well, that's a $64,000 question.
I mean, potentially even more money than that. That is fascinating. If there are parallel universes, multiple universes, it's heady stuff. It's hard to wrap one's mind around. If one comes to one's end, one's demise in one, does that exterminate the version of you in all of them, or are there versions of you that continue on in those parallel universes?
Well, according to quantum mechanics, which is the foundation of modern society, in fact, when you die, it does not necessarily mean that all your other copies also die. And so in some sense, you can live on. or in some universes, perhaps you already died. So we exist with parallel universes, the foundation of television, radio, electronics, computers, all of that is based on something called quantum mechanics, which in turn is based on multiple universes. Get used to it.
Dr. Kaku, do you personally take comfort in the idea of multiple universes? Do you think that we all should?
I think so, in the sense that just because you've messed up in this universe, it doesn't mean you've messed up in all the other universes that you can visit. However, the trick is you can't visit them easily. The amount of energy, the amount of sophistication to go between universes is far beyond anything we can muster. So Marvel Comics got it partially right, that yes, we believe that there are parallel universes, but going between them is for the comic books.
It's fascinating. With the time we have, I do want to get your thoughts on a fairly big development with our search for life on other planets. Scientists discovered some of the strongest evidence yet of life beyond our solar system, detecting 2 organically made gases on a faraway planet. How close are we, in your view, to confirming actual alien life? And is this the closest we've ever gotten?
Well, this is the closest we've gotten, but we have a long ways to go. Realize that to have life, to have self-sustaining life, you have to have something like a DNA molecule. We have not found anything resembling a DNA molecule on this planet that we're looking at. However, the very fact that we have the element of life is encouraging, but we have not yet picked up any DNA molecule from these planets. If we do, that would be the signal that there could very well be life forms on that planet, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. If we eventually do confirm life beyond Earth, even if it is simple life, bacteria, fungi, how does that change humanity's view of its place in the universe? What is our immediate next step?
Well, we like to think that we're the king of the hill. And if you look at most of human history, we always believed that we were number one. And anyone who talked about life in other worlds was considered a crackpot. Now we realize that the universe could be teeming with different kinds of life forms. We've now looked at over 5,000 planets that have been cataloged, and several of them have conditions that look very close to life. And so we have to completely change our worldview. In other words, the Milky Way galaxy with 100 billion stars could be teeming with different life forms. And this planet that we're looking here is just the first of a whole string of planets that'll have conditions that resemble what we call life.
Dr. Michio Kaku, always appreciate the time, always appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.